Welcome to Behind the Lash Chair. I'm your host, Alexis Weisenburger, founder and owner of AW Lashes. My goal is to help you as a lash artist grow with tips and tricks on lashing, becoming an entrepreneur, marketing, and so much more. This is an amazing place to find free resources and connect with lash artists all around the world. Let's get started. Welcome back, you guys, for another amazing episode. This week is a little different of our topic, but we figured it's such a good idea to bring something a little different besides lashes, because a lot of lash artists have a little side hustle going on the side. So this week we are interviewing Lexi, the owner of Kaxi. That is Kaxi. Welcome, Lexi.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you. So a lot of lash artists in our industry have side hustles. And what I mean by that is they have some of them make soaps and sell them. And some of them, have jewelry and all these things. And they're always asking me how do I start this business and things like that. And your Instagram and your business is so cool. Can you just kind of tell everyone a little bit about it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. First of all, I love all the lash artists in all of the world. Okay. You guys are all amazing and you do a great service. But, for me, Kaxi is a hair accessory business for women. I started it in 2018 and now we kind of I started with just hair scarves and scrunchies. And now we have everything you could think of to put on your head, including some apparel and things like that. So we've grown so much in the last 3 years, which is such a blessing. And to kind of answer your question directly to those situations with people who, want that side hustle or want to start a business. I think so many people get so caught up in I need 20,000 followers, or I need to have this huge website, or I need to, all of these things that are kind of holding you back from starting. And my best piece of advice is you already probably have a clientele. You probably already have, 40 people in your life that are friends or people from high school or people that follow you on social media, and start with the people that you already know instead of trying so quickly to have this big outreach before you start your business. And I know it can be scary, but I think if you never start, you'll never know. And that holds so many people back.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it is so hard to put yourself out. You feel so, I don't know, you're on display, right? And people are watching you either fail or succeed.
Absolutely.
Why hair accessories? You're stunning. Is it your hair where you kind of at Target and you're I can do this better, or what made you think this journey?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I have always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I grew up with entrepreneurial parents, and I think that was just something ingrained in me as a really small child, that was something I wanted to do. And I know a lot of people feel that itch or feel that desire, and they want to do it, but they don't know what, right? That's the $1 million question of I want to do something, but I don't know what. And for me, I kind of had to come to the realization that it's, at the time was 2018, and I'm not going to, I'm not super techie. I'm not super into medical, or I'm not going to I'm not going to invent anything that hasn't been invented.
Yes.
And so I kind of just started looking for things in my life that I lacked, that I wish that I had. For me, every dollar that I ever made before the age of 14 went to Claire's. I don't know if you guys remember Claire's or have been in Claire's in years. But that is an accessory shop, but it's very targeted towards young girls. And that was, that's where I spent my babysitting money and my lemonade money and everything. And so that was always something that I just personally loved, was hair accessories. I just thought they were so fun, super girly, really fun and cute. And so for me, it was a situation where I kind of realized there was a gap in the marketplace of, yes, I could go to Target and probably find a scrunchie, or I could probably find one at, Old Navy in the aisle where you check out, or wherever I'm going to go. But there wasn't one place that I went specifically for hair accessories. And so that was kind of a light bulb moment for me of, I love wearing hair scarves and scrunchies and things like that, but I can never find exactly what I'm looking for unless I just happenstance buy it, And so that was when I kind of bought a sewing machine, taught myself how to sew, went to Joann's, bought some fabric, and did the whole 9 yards of, trial and error of figuring out how to perfect what I was looking for. And then decided that I was just going to turn it into a business. And, I never would have expected it, but here we are almost 4 years later, and it's been, the best thing.
Yeah. So you make all of these by hand. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, I do not anymore. That was
okay.
Yeah, no.
Wow.
No, I am not a seamstress. Okay. I am a businesswoman, but I am not a seamstress. I tell people who have like my first couple runs of stuff that I did to just like throw it away. Like it was probably terrible and I really appreciate them buying it, but like it was probably really bad, And
yeah.
I realized really early on that like I was working full time. I was going to school full time, and then I was coming home, and my husband and I would literally sew all night long. And I realized that was something for me that like was frustrating. I wasn't very good at it, but I needed products because we were selling out. And so I really early on put out a listing actually just on Facebook for, just like a stay-at-home mom that wanted some extra money. She could do it when she wanted. I would drop off all the materials. And then that's kind of been our model ever since with fabric pieces is we have a couple local seamstresses who are just moms, and they just sew when their kids are sleeping or napping or, kind of whenever, and they just have deadlines, and then they just get us our pieces and we kind of go from there. So I handed that responsibility off really, really quick.
Okay. I love that. So going back to our, like everyone's first struggle of putting themselves out there. So you kind of figured out the hair, hair accessories and things like that. Did you have struggles with the following or, anything like that? Or were you just like, you know what, I don't care if I fail at this, like I'm going to do it? Or did you already have, so many followers that you felt comfortable, putting yourself out there like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I had my own slew of, insecurities and issues and, personal roadblocks of me being nervous to put it out there. I remember very vividly starting my Kaxi Instagram and like not posting it on my personal Instagram for a couple weeks because I was just nervous, right? Like you're nervous, you're shy. You obviously are in front of these people who are close friends or not, old friends, things like that. And you're nervous to put it out there and then it not work. And that embarrassment seems so scary. But to be honest, I don't think looking back, people don't care as much as you think they do ever. And I would have done myself a serious disservice if I wouldn't have introduced it to the people in my life that knew me and were going to support me and have continued to support me through the last couple of years. And so, obviously like we started from, the bottom and we had 0 followers and we just kind of grew really slowly. And obviously we had our struggles with that. And it's obviously still not where I would love it to be. There's always more, but I think I really early on discovered, at least for myself and my personal brand, that it really wasn't about the amount of followers. It was about the connections that I had with the ones that I did have. And so our brand is very, very specific to our customers of like, I know their names. I creepily know their addresses because we package their orders. Like I know their husband's name. I know their kid's name. Like I have made a really cognizant effort to get to know my customers who have become my friends, which is awesome. And really has been the best thing that's come out of my business. But the people that I actually have connections with, they're way more likely to support me in a new collection or a new launch, than just 100,000 followers of people who don't have any emotional connection to you. So that's something in my business and something I would recommend to brands out there is to really get to know the people that are actually there.
I love that. One thing we do at AW, what I do is any new customer, I write them a note. And sometimes I do creepily. I'm like, oh my gosh, they live in Florida or they live, somewhere by a beach. And I kind of secretly like maybe look them up and kind of live vicariously. I'm like, wow, that'd be amazing. But yeah, we always write a note. Do you guys do similar or do you like directly reach out and just, get to know them?
It kind of comes in different forms. We don't have specifically one system. We do anytime we recognize, and me and my employees as well, anytime we recognize names of orders that come in, we just write a quick little note, like on their little order packing slip, or, we do a lot of in-person events. And so we really reach out and try to get people there. We have, I call it it's called my Binsta. It's like a Finsta. I don't know if you know what a Finsta is, but it's like a fake Instagram, but it's for my business. And all of our like really, really close customers or whatever can follow it. And that's kind of our behind the scenes page of like, you know, I'm going to post the ups and the downs and the stuff that maybe I'm not comfortable posting on, you know, my business Instagram, but it's kind of like a private business Instagram. And so that's where I really connect and DM and get to know and, you know, share the struggles that I probably wouldn't like publicly, if that makes sense.
Oh, I mean, totally. I mean, sometimes it's hard not to, right? Because sometimes we're sold out of things and it's pretty obvious, like, you know, your struggles. You're like, oh, can't get that back in stock. So that's really cool. So, with, you know, what made you guys take off? Was there like, because I feel like you guys are in such a niche market, just like lashes. And I feel like you guys are definitely taking off. Was there a specific product or was it just like grit and you guys just posting and putting your name out there? Or was it like a certain scrunchie or a certain clip that was just like so unique? Like what kind of made it like, you're like, dang, like maybe you sat down with your husband because I've done that and you're like, okay, I've made it, like in a way.
No, absolutely. It's really hard to say one thing because I feel like I've had so many of those moments, right? Of just those aha, like, what is my life? Like, where did this come from? This is amazing. But to be honest, I think that we really stood out from the marketplace that we're in based on, we started, instead of just like everyday dinky scrunchies, we started doing oversized scrunchies. And that was something that you couldn't find anywhere else at the time. And that came from, to be honest, kind of a happy little mistake of like, with our measurements of how we were cutting, we had like this big long piece left of fabric every time. And instead of wasting it, you know, we decided to do something with it. And, you know, the oversized scrunchie was born. And I felt like these scrunchies that we carry, we very rarely carry regular size scrunchies anymore, but these oversized ones are so much more, you know, adult rather than, you know, juvenile. And there are some that are out there that are regular and they look so good, but these oversized ones kind of looked more like a fancy accessory in your hair rather than just like, I just threw a scrunchie in, you know? And so those kind of became something for us that really separated us from the marketplace that we're in. But I mean, since then we've had, you know, 1.5 million other little products that have kind of obviously boosted that, you know, buzz or the talk or the followers or however you want to put it. But to be honest, I think more than anything, I really attribute our success and our growth back to the community that we have and that we really try to make our little corner of the internet like a family. Like it's not just a regular business Instagram. It truly is like, you know me, you know my assistant, you know my employees, you know my husband, you know our office, you know how dirty it is. Like, you know, all of the ins and the outs of our life. And people, I think, really connect to that and they really want that, you know, sense of community. And that's something that we really try to offer.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that you guys are personalizing your brand to that too. So it sounds like you guys listen to your customers a lot then too. Like if they message in or things like that, you kind of, you know, make sure like that doesn't happen again, or even just like maybe even coming out with a product to help them.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's really cool. So we had a customer message in and they just love your branding and everything with Instagram. So what would be your biggest advice? They just kind of want to know, like with social media and how you just kind of going back to branding, like what you do it yourself? Do you have someone that does it for you? Posting and all that.
I grew up with a father that was very much, if I can do it myself, I'm going to do it myself. Like, why would I pay someone if I can do it myself? And my mentality has since switched from that a little bit, because there are times where I'm like, I'm not doing this. Like, I'm finding somebody else who's better at this. But I currently still do all of our design, and most of our Instagram stuff. That's something for me that takes a lot of my time and is probably something that I could pass on, but it is that my customers and, you know, my friends, I hate calling them customers, but really like those people are so important to me. And that's such an important part of my business for me personally that I have a really hard time giving that up. And so for me, you know, I have my cute assistant, Allie, that helps me with all the DMs, but I go through all the comments. I am responding to the comments. I'm very involved in that process. And who knows, I mean, eventually maybe that's something that I'll need to give up, but for now, that's my enjoyment. That's my sense of connection. And so for right now, that's primarily me and, occasionally my girls. But with branding and stuff, I just kind of self-taught myself how to do it. And, when it comes to branding, I think there are definitely different ways to do it. There's obviously so much power in the aesthetic, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to discredit that whatsoever. People that have the perfect Instagrams, that I am so jealous of them that my brain maybe just doesn't, I'm too sporadic. That my brain doesn't work that way. But our branding is, like I've said a million times, very personalized, but also it's very me. Like I think for anyone out there that's listening, that's worried about branding, it's really hard to stay on brand when it's not authentic. And so I think if anything, when you sell a product or you sell a service, and you lash artists know this better than anybody, you're also kind of selling yourself. You're selling your personality. You're the ones that are meshing with your clients. And so I think when it comes to branding, my best piece of advice is put yourself into a brand and it becomes so much easier to stick to. And so that's kind of something that we've done. And, you could, if you scrolled for hours and hours through our Instagram, you can see our brand has changed quite a bit from the beginning and through the years. But that's also because my style has changed and my personality has changed and I've grown as a person. And I also was, 20 years old when I started the brand. And so I have grown up a little bit and for me, my brand is very in connection to where I'm at as a person, and it has changed and it's flowed, but it's worked for us. And we haven't had to stay, super uniform with anything because that's kind of the standard that we set up front, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's so amazing. I feel like, we all have a dream or a side hustle or something we want to start and do. And that's why I just think you're so unique of you did it. You wouldn't think, oh, this could be a full-time job or anything like that. And here you are taking off with it. And and your Instagram is beautiful and it's just so pretty. So what would you say would be your biggest challenge so far? Was it COVID or was it, a certain product, or what, adversities are you facing or have you faced as it has been growing?
That's a great question. I actually get asked a lot about the COVID situation. And my heart obviously goes out to any, specifically a service-based industry that was just slaughtered, right? For us, COVID, actually, we had the opposite response. I think a lot of people got their stimulus checks, or there was just kind of this buzz, especially in Utah where we're at. And I don't know how it was in other places, but especially in Utah, there was a huge buzz around keeping those small businesses alive during COVID. And I really think everyone in the community stepped up and really did everything that they could to support, whether that was the restaurants or the small businesses and things like that. And I do think that because of the community that I had previously built, I had a lot of friends and customers who were specifically worried, and so then they were trying to, make extra purchases where they could and support where they could. And we had a very opposite response to some of the really sad stories of businesses who, took a huge tank. And so that was kind of, I would never want to call COVID a blessing, but it was something for us where people really stepped up. And that was really cool to see, of just a community that really rallied around us and helped us through that really scary, uncertain time. But when it comes to my biggest struggle, I've had a million, and I could probably sit here and, fill 47 hours of a podcast.
Yes.
I think for me, the biggest struggle as a business owner, and this is probably just the biggest struggle in my life in general, is organization. As you grow, it's really easy to manage at the beginning. And I don't know, Alexis, if you feel this, but at the beginning, it's very easy to manage because it is, minimal orders and minimal people you're having to check in on, and, decisions you're having to make. And as we've continued to grow, I am such a spontaneous, sporadic person just in my life. That organization of really planning ahead has kind of bit me in the butt multiple times. And it's a lesson that I have to continue to learn as a business owner of as we grow, I have to plan. Like I can't
Yes.
just shoot from my hip anymore. It has to be, I have employees and I have people waiting on me, and we have lead times and we have all of these things that I really have to like sit down and force myself to plan. And I know that is, for some of you, you're like, that's your biggest struggle. Come on, but for me, like that is not the way my brain is wired. It's not natural to me. It's like, it's literally a chore to sit down and like plan 3 months in advance. Cause I'm like, I don't even know what I want for dinner tonight. Like, how am I supposed to know what I want to do in 6 months?
Oh, totally. I feel like that's kind of what makes, a business so special of, that's how you got it to launch though, is you didn't overthink it, right?
Absolutely.
Because I feel like some people, when they come and they're like, oh, I want to open a salon or anything like that, they're like overthinking the process versus like, just diving in, and you'll have one thing pop up, you'll conquer that, then the next thing, and you kind of just hit a list. And
absolutely.
So I work the same way. And even people like, at my salon, they'll go and look through my drawer and they're like, this is so messy. I'm like, yeah, this is my space. Yeah. Like, this is how I
like, I know where everything is.
Yeah.
100%.
Right. And then everyone else is like keeping me on track because I'm just like you when it comes to that.
Absolutely. The best thing I ever did was hire, an assistant who I still have right now with me, who is organized, and she is on top of it, and she sends me reminders, and she knows where everything is that I put. And, she has a tracker on my cell phone, and like, she just like, she is my right hand, right? Where like, I need that balance in my life to help me both be that creative and that spontaneous and kind of continue to come up with new ideas, but also be managed and wrangled a little bit.
Oh, totally. I mean, that's what's so beautiful is that's what, like with products and new launches, like our brain can still go in that category. Because if we were too structured, I feel like we would slow that process down.
Absolutely.
So what makes you decide like which products to launch next? Is it kind of, because for, lashes, I like to see the needs for people and kind of what questions they're DMing us in, and things like that. Is that kind of like how, this hair, or because now you have clothes and they're so cute and things like that? Is that kind of just like you wanted it and you went for it? Because I love that too. Or was it like you and your friends are like, oh, I feel like we, there's a need for this?
Yeah. A little bit of both, to be honest. We've recently launched apparel, which has been really scary and really awesome. But I kind of just decided that like, I'm going to launch what I love. Like, this brand that I've built is very much me. And I want to design stuff, and I really want to feel creative. And, we bought an embroidery machine off a whim, which was kind of backwards and crazy. And, again, here I am with my sewing machine, teaching myself how to sew, teaching myself how to embroider. And it was a nightmare at first, but, we really started diving into like designs that I really loved and things that like even my girls, my employees were like super into. But when it comes to picking products and, bringing things into our store that we love, I really like, one of my most important parts of my job is kind of staying ahead of the trends. And anything with apparel or things like that, you can really and like just getting very business, you can really capitalize on sales when you are the first one to bring it. Obviously, when you follow those trends, everyone can capitalize from them. But when you're like the first person to introduce it, you have the longest, lifespan for that trend, and you can obviously make the most money from it. So a huge part of my job is, staying ahead of those trends and really having an eye for things that, could be up and coming, or maybe they were really popular in the 90s and it's about to hit. And so I'm going to try to start it before it starts, kind of thing. And sometimes it doesn't always work out. And that's the flip hand side of really taking risks like that, is sometimes it's a little bit before the trend and it doesn't quite hit. Or sometimes, it just doesn't hit at all because people are like, I never want to see that again. I did that in the 90s. But when it does pay off, it pays off wonderfully. So I think that in any industry, it can get really easy to fall into this like copycat mentality, and which like we're all human. We all have social media. We're very influenced by everything around us. And so, I don't mean to say copycat in a negative way per se.
No.
But when you can really step out of those spheres that you're in of being influenced by other things and really like nail down what you want to do and what products you think would be cool, or really brainstorm your brainchild, I think that that's where you will set yourself apart from whatever industry you're in, especially if it's saturated. If you can kind of be as unique as possible to yourself and to you and those trends, then in my experience, it has paid off greatly.
Oh, I love that. So with the copycat, like people copycatting you, because I'm sure it happens. You mentioned the big scrunchies, and we've had it happen. How do you deal with that as a business owner?
Yeah, it's freaking hard. I'm not gonna lie. It is. I mean, we talk about some of the hardest things that I've done in my business, and that is, that's up there. And this too. You mentioned that this has happened to you, but it kind of punches you in your gut. Your business is your baby. Like, I currently don't have any kids, and literally my business is my child. Like, I eat, sleep, and breathe my business. And when you see kind of one of those like copycats or rip-off designs or things like that, it really does, like, it's personal. Like, it feels like your life is over a little bit.
Yeah.
And we're at the point now where it has happened, unfortunately, more times than I can count. And I don't think that it gets easier, but I do think that I have learned to not give it the attention that I used to. It still hurts and it still sucks, and it's still something you're going to have to continue to deal with. But I just think as long as you're keeping your head down and like really focusing on your lane, like, copycats will always be there, but they're always going to be 2 steps behind you. And I think that's important to remember, is like, as long as you can just keep your head down and try your best, as hard as it is, to like not look at their page, not look at anything that they're going to do. Like, you see it, you acknowledge it, and then you have to move on from it, or it will eat you alive as a business owner.
Oh, totally. I feel like our biggest struggle, especially at the beginning, is we would launch something and then a company with more money would come in and obviously make it look better, but it was our brainchild, which was so hard because they had the capital to like blow it out of the water.
Absolutely. No. And you walk into any store ever now and you see oversized scrunchies. And I don't know if Urban Outfitters ripped Kaxi off. Like, I'm not one to say that, right?
Yeah.
But that's how it feels. Like, that's how you genuinely feel that way. And it's hard and it sucks, but also like, the people, if you're building your community as you're building your business, like, the people that are loyal to you will stay loyal to you, and you'll continue to pick up, stragglers on the way to like pull apart as your business family, or pull into your family. And I just like, you just have to focus on the people that you have, not the people you don't have, because obviously those big companies have bigger reach. They have more money. But you have already built relationships with people that will stay loyal to you. And so that's something that has helped me kind of get past those really hard, difficult times as a business owner.
Yeah. I, once again, totally agree with that. When you were going through COVID and you talked about the Utah community, and I'm from Utah, so I get that community. It's a little different outside of, Utah. Like, I would say Utah's very, startups, and you all kind of like close knit together.
Yeah.
But during COVID, or, throughout the times, like when you talked about this community, how did you network with, like, did you go into boutiques and just like straight up be like, I have these cool scrunchies, do you want to throw them on the shelf? Or did you just like start networking through Instagram? Like, how did you build a strong community around you?
Well, I mean, this kind of leads me into a different topic, but we do a lot of wholesale. We have a lot of wholesale accounts. And so I would say that it started from Instagram, to be honest. We built relationships with, local boutiques and local blow dry bars and local hair salons and things like that. And I remember going to lunch. This was maybe one of my aha moments, with one of the owners specifically emailed me and asked if we could go to lunch of one of the local like blow dry bars here in Utah.
Okay.
And they're pretty big. They're pretty well known. And I went to lunch and I remember being so nervous. This was like pretty early on in my business. And we still had, all handmade products at the time. And I went to lunch and I was shaking under the table, right? I tried to keep but I was nervous. Like, it was my first real experience, I think, as like, I'm a businesswoman. Like, this isn't just a side gig anymore. This isn't just like for fun. Like, this is like serious. And I'm meeting another businesswoman that's serious, and was respected, and, she's not messing around. And so I kind of had to put on, my big girl panties and go into this meeting. And, she was awesome. She was so kind. She was so nice. She was very interested in my business. And then she just kind of made a proposal to me to like, we've been looking for something local and something awesome to like put in our blow dry bars. Like, would you be interested? And I kind of was like, I thought I was going to have to ask you, like, yes, yes, absolutely. And so that was kind of our first wholesale account, and kind of opened my mind to this whole new universe of, not only could I sell to customers and individual women across the country, but I also can sell to businesses, and I can sell to business owners and other like awesome women who are owning businesses who we want to support each other. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And so, that kind of opened a whole new door for me. And from then, we're in hundreds of stores across the United States now, of just, whether that's salons or boutiques or little surf shops in Hawaii or whatever it may be. Kaxi is kind of all over the world, which is awesome.
That is so cool. You deserve it, but wow, that is so cool how you just got a niche and you just went for it. And it's beautiful to hear. Would you say, when you were going through like this meeting with, the blow dry bar, was your husband like your support team? Like, were they like, oh my gosh, like she's serious, like this is really happening? Or, like with my husband and I remember he, went to dental school, and we were kind of, when we were going through that and I wanted to do this, he was kind of like, okay, like, whatever, like I'll support you. Yeah. But then when they got serious, when we started, selling and like, like you guys wholesale accounts, he kind of looked at me like, oh, like I need to sit down and like do the taxes for you and get you organized. Like, is that kind of how, but I guess you come from entrepreneurs. So were they already like, do it?
Yeah, no, my husband, he's amazing. And I wouldn't be where I'm at without him. We're definitely a team. He actually still has his own job and his own profession. And he begs me pretty much every day to quit and come on to Kaxi. And I that will be a step for us eventually for sure. But it really does become a worry of mine to mix that like marriage and business. And I'm not saying that we couldn't do it, but it definitely adds another dynamic to your relationship. And, but as of right now, like he does help me with a lot of the back end stuff. And when we're crazy busy prepping for markets or shows or whatever that is, like he's here in the office tagging scrunchies, like he's as involved as I need him to be. But that also makes him, perfect for me, is because I really feel comfortable to like reach out and ask him for help or run ideas by him. And he's my biggest cheerleader, but he also really lets me like have the reins and like go to town with whatever business decision I want to make, but supports me and like cheerleads me, but also kind of like silently is in the background, ready to like pick up my crazy pieces, which works really, really well for us. And that, when we started, it was kind of something that I don't think that he realized how serious I probably was about it, but in my mind, right, when I was starting my business, there was no in between of like, I'm eventually going to quit my job and this is going to be everything. Like, and I don't know if that was just, I was young and naive or, but I was just hell bent of like, if I'm going to start this, like, this is going to be huge kind of thing. And I think that obviously as any normal person would have like skepticism, and he never showed that to me, but looking back and we talk about it and we laugh about it, he's like, I didn't realize like how serious you were. Like, I was like, yeah, let's go to Joanne's fun date night. Right. Like it wasn't, he just thought it would be like fun. And like, I was just kind of sporadic and I had new ideas all the time. And, a couple months into it, we kind of sat down and he was like, no, like, this is serious. Like you're serious about it. And I was like, I've been serious from day one. Like, what did you think? But, normal people keep me on the ground, which is good. And it really balances me. But like I said, like he really didn't realize how in my brain I was just hell bent to like, this is going to work.
I love that. It reminds me of when we were starting, my husband and I, we had to buy so much up front. We had to buy it was $20,000 we needed to come up with to buy so many lash trays. And the crazy part is it's a money wire transfer. So if it doesn't work out, you'll never get your money back. So we were sitting in the bank and he like looked at me and he's like, okay, like you're for sure going to get these lashes, right? I was like, yeah, we'll for sure get them. But like in my mind, I didn't know that, but like he was kind of the one, he's more logical than me. Yeah. So I had to like fake that, I was for sure these lashes were coming.
1,000%. I've been there more times than I can admit. Sorry, Chase, if you ever listen to this. But yeah.
Right? So then once the products came, I was like, whew, you did it. And scary. I now tell him that. I was like, honestly, I had no idea like that $20,000 was going to come or it wasn't going to come. And he's like, oh my gosh, like, he thinks, my brain and your brain work the same where we're just going to go for it. But you need someone logical to go in there and doubt you.
Yeah, no. And that's scary. I mean, with us, it wasn't $20,000 up front. Like we had like $2,000 in our savings. We had just gotten married and I was like, hey, one day at work, I texted him and was like, hey, I bought this sewing machine from some girl off KSL, which is like a local marketplace system that we have in Utah. Can you meet her in this Wendy's parking lot after lunch and like pick it up? And he was like, what are you talking? Like, you don't sew, like you don't cook, you don't sew. Like, what are you trying to do? And I just was like, just trust me, just pick it up, whatever. And he did. And then, we went to Joann's and spent $100 and, that was kind of the business was born. So the $20,000 wire is scary. That is scary. For me, it was like, I'll pick you up your $50 sewing machine used.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Hey, that's even better. And, every startup is a little different, whether, like I said, some of our people that, our customers, one girl was talking about hand making soaps and selling them to her customers. And it's so cool. Like, she can do that probably for a lot lower cost. So.
For 1,000%. Yes.
Yes. So was there what was your biggest moment since opening in 2018, which is so cool how far you've already gone? Would you say it was that wholesale account that you were like, okay, that was the golden ticket for me and now I know I can do it? Or was there another moment the big scrunchie that was your brainchild?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like at the time, those were both, my biggest moment. And I feel like I continued to, have different ones and bigger ones and, smaller ones, but are still exciting. I don't know. I think one moment for me that stands out is we kept it in my house as long as possible. And that was a nightmare. I have, it's amazing and it saves you a lot of money and you're able to do things that you're not able to do because you are saving so much money. But it came to the point where we needed out of my, we started in a condo. We started in a 3-bedroom condo when we were first and there was boxes to the ceiling. I didn't have a couch. It was a shipping station. It was insane,
Yeah.
But I do think that some really big moments for me was hiring my first employee and short after hiring my second and, moving into a warehouse and outgrowing it in 3 months and moving into a different one. And, I don't know, we had a really awesome, it's called Pinners Conference. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's the biggest conference that they do here in Utah. They have a couple around the United States, but we did Pinners Conference and we did $35,000 in sales in a day. It was insane. It just was just those little aha moments of what is my life? Who what, who am I? Am I an imposter? Maybe this is insane,
yeah.
But I don't know, there's been so many and I'm so grateful for it because I have, I have a list, which is awesome.
Oh, I totally agree. I have pictures. I don't know. I'm sure you do too, of when we moved out from Utah to Colorado. I, started it and the lashes came, but we were living in my in-laws' basement.
Oh, yep. We did that.
So we had our room, and then they had another guest room that we completely took over. So like in drawers was our inventory, and in the closet was our inventory, and it was all labeled. And like people like my sister-in-law, they would all come over and visit my in-laws, and they'd be like, what is all this stuff in this room?
Yeah.
Like there's some humbling moments, but you'll never forget them.
Yep,
For
absolutely.
sure.
Absolutely.
And then you just like kind of pinch yourself when you're sitting down and you're like, oh my gosh, this is a warehouse. Like, this is so cool.
Yeah, for sure. It's insane.
Well, I've been so humbled by so many moments, like just through, COVID. It was so hard to get products in. I don't know if you guys had that issue with, materials, but that was very humbling because we were pretty new. Yeah. We only were open for about a year before that, maybe even just like 6 months. And so we had like this beautiful inventory. And then all of a sudden we couldn't get this specific backing for our lash strips. And we even lost a pretty big account over it. Oh. And because we just were simply not big enough to keep the inventory we needed for that account. Like it was like a knife to the heart. Like, wow, they could have been such a big customer. And, we just couldn't keep up with their supply. And there's things like that. I feel like, someone doubting themselves needs to realize like you're going to have failures. Yeah, and that's okay. Like we still moved on from it. We have way larger accounts and things like that. But I just remember kind of rethinking my life choice as she was telling me, yeah, I mean, these strips are just not consistent. Mm-hmm. I need to go with a larger company, that can keep up with our demand. And now, we've reached out and we're like, we're there if you want, but honestly, it was just one bad experience and you probably won't ever get that customer back. But is there like a way that you kind of had something like that or to move on from? Like, I just remember and listening to other entrepreneurs that I look up to. I don't know who you look up to, but I love Andy Frisella's. He's kind of a little rough around the edges, but he owns First Form, and just like, he always preaches like, all right, like just move on. Like, if you're going to whine about it, you'll just whine forever.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I obviously have a plethora of, downfalls and things like that. But I don't know. I just really believe in like, there's no substitute to hard work, and hard work isn't always easy. And sometimes you're at your highs of highs and sometimes you're at your lows of lows, but as long as you're working hard, like you're going to come out on top. And I just think when you have those really low moments as a business owner or really discouraging moments, and even just in life in general, I just think like the best thing you can do is just go to work, like figure out another solution, figure out, a different product, go find another account, whatever that means for you in that situation. The only way you're going to feel better about whatever bad is happening is to have another win. So go find the win, and you kind of just, it's kind of just pull your pants up, buck up a little bit, and like go find that win, because no one else is going to be able to do it for you but you. And so for me, that's something, and it's way easier said than done, right? But in those moments, you might have that pit in your stomach for a couple weeks, but eventually it's going to go away, and you need to focus on that and find something to make it go away quicker, kind of thing. And so that's just really helped me over and over and over. Anytime that I've had a low is, finding something better. And that only comes through hard work.
Yeah. I mean, that's just life, and there's going to be downs, and, all the doubts and everything that they have they're facts, and they could happen. And that's just kind of what makes people successful. I feel like in any industry is the one who can take the hard knocks and keep knocking. Because I've never heard of a story where there wasn't something wild and crazy that happened to them. Or they even were like, let's just close it. And they just kept going, because I don't know. And that's what's so great about a support system and everything like that. But it's a lot of getting beat down and then to build yourself back up. until you kind of hit a moment and you're like, okay, like, I mean, there's good days and bad days, but you know, there's a lot better, you know, good days versus bad now.
Absolutely. And looking back at everything bad that I would consider bad that's ever happened in my business or as a business owner, like I look back and my business wouldn't be what it is today without that, because everything that's happened that was bad, I've learned from and I've never done it again. And
Yeah.
like, who knows down the road if I would have made that mistake, you know, with way more money on the line or way more, you know, customers or whatever that may be, like that could have been way more catastrophic than if I would have made it early on. And so I'm totally for the perspective of like failure is amazing. Like failure is important. It's imperative. You have to go through it, or no one is, you know, exempt from failure. And if you don't figure it out now early on, you're going to figure it out later. And that could be way more catastrophic than if you would have just done it at the beginning, kind of thing. So for example, for you guys, like your inventory, right? Like you never wanted that to happen again. So you would never take a client on that, you know, that you couldn't, you know, you don't want to ruin that relationship. And so you're either going to get more inventory or you're going to hold off on them until you have that inventory.
Oh, totally. I mean, but it's just like you said, you don't know until you experience it, and that's okay. Like, I just wish I would have learned that sooner, in a way of like, there's going to be mess ups, and like, that's okay. Go start your business, because you will have mess ups no matter how much you sit here and think about it. Just go do it.
Absolutely.
So, Lexi, is there any other advice that you would just give to anyone, you know, that's just thinking about starting their jewelry business, or anything like that, you know, you wish you would have received, you know, as a beginner entrepreneur?
Yeah. Yes, a million.
Right.
I'll give you my whole list. No, for me, I think it can get owning a business from the outside seems so glamorous. And once you're on the inside, don't get me wrong, it is like, there are some really, really awesome perks to owning your own business, but it also can be very lonely, and it can be a stress that you've never felt before in your whole life. Like, I go to bed at night and like, I stress that I have like employees. Like, that's a stress for me I never would have had in my whole life. But I go to bed knowing like I like help pay for these people's like, obviously they do it themselves, but like, that's kind of like, if I don't perform, that's affecting not just me anymore. And I think that I wish I would have known going into owning a business, and this comes around in a roundabout way, but I wish I would have known how hard it is and been a little bit more prepared for the failures and the, you know, the parts of it that can be really hard, and been a little bit more open and honest with the people around me of what I was going through. Because it can become really hard. Like, you obviously are in a position that so many people envy, and you're in a position where so many people like covet your life, and I would never change my life. But also, when you complain about these things, it makes you seem ungrateful, or it makes you seem, you know, kind of just, I don't know how else to put it. Just, you know, I'm complaining about the fact that I have to, you know, provide for these employees, but I should never complain about that in the first place, because I'm at where I'm at, you know? And so I think for me, a big piece of advice was finding like-minded people that were in situations that I was in, whether that was other business owners or really connecting with people who had owned businesses or whatever that was. Because as much as I want to call my mom and, you know, talk to my mom about it, like she probably doesn't get it to the extent that I need someone to empathize with me. And so finding some people to really connect with early on was really helpful for me as a business owner, for like my mental health, for my, you know, for my relationships, for my marriage, for all of these things in my life, because I didn't feel so alone. And so that's a huge piece of advice that I would give to anybody starting out. Whether you expect to take off or you just want it as a side hustle, it comes with its own, you know, issues and problems and things like that. So find people that are in those same situations as you and rally together and bounce ideas off each other and try to find that community, because that will help you more than you'll even know.
Totally. And just, you know, with that being said, I remember feeling the same thing with like hiring and being like, wow, Like if I fell, we all fell.
Yeah.
And I was listening to, like you said, you kind of make the connections, and they're like, at least that means you're on the right track though, is because you actually do care for these people. Like that means you're going to be successful, because deep down you want to take care of them more than anything, and how beautiful that is, versus just being like, well, I'll just fire you if not.
No, absolutely. I always say that of everything in my business, my employees are my most important. They're the most important part of my business. And that is something as a business owner that I truly feel to my core. But I also think if you're out there and you can emulate that, and like you would never be where you're at without them. And I think that some owners get caught up in the other way around of like, my employees would never be where they are without me. And that's true. Yes. But also it needs to be flipped. Like your mentality needs to be flipped of like, you could never do what you do as a business owner if you didn't have them. And at the end of the day, they could go find something else. And so when they feel valued and important, that there's nothing more important to me in my business, because it only benefits everyone at the end of the day.
I mean, heck, just go look at my lash drawer and you'd be like, wow, Alexis needs to surround herself with a lot of employees.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But also like hiring is a big, scary thing. And, I went back and forth for months, and I wish I would have done it earlier. Obviously finding the right person is imperative. You have, if you do a couple rounds of interviews, or you get done with interviews and you don't feel good about it, like don't just hire because you feel like you have to. But once you find that right person, hire earlier than you think you need to be honest, because my productivity as a business owner and sales and just being able to like do more than I could by myself, went up, and in turn sales went up. Like it's kind of a simple equation that I wish I would have learned earlier, and would have saved me a lot of like regret and stress and just unnecessary, whatever it came with, if I would have just hired earlier.
Oh, totally. And what you learn from hiring, like, you hire for this, but maybe like once they get going, they're better at this, and things like you just kind of learn as you go. And then it, like you said, helps you grow. So I think that's awesome, because, and that's a failure, right? We all, they're going to fail.
Absolutely. And it also kicked, my butt into gear, because I did go to bed thinking I have an employee. Like I have to work hard, because like she is paying her bills, and that is on me. Like, and that really helped I have always thought I was a hard worker, but nothing has made me a harder worker than having employees, and your productivity will go up.
Yes, totally. Well, Lexi, it was so awesome having you, and I'm so excited for this inspirational podcast. I'm sure everyone that's listening to it, they're like, okay, now I can start. Just kidding.
No, it was so fun.
Yes. And I just wanted to just give you a shout out one more time. Her Instagram handle is Kaxi, Kaxi. Go buy her hair stuff and her beautiful clothes and everything. I was actually like, I need to buy some baby bows, because I have 11 more weeks and my baby girl would look so cute in these bows.
Is it your first?
It is my first.
Oh, that's so exciting.
So anyways, well, thank you so much again. And I hope we can do this again, because I feel like it was so educational.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.